Tariffs, taxes on imports, are like a bouncer at Club America, deciding who gets in and who pays extra at the door. For decades, the US has debated how high that cover charge should be, and who really ends up paying it. Tariffs are meant to protect American businesses from foreign competition, but they also shape what we buy, how much we pay, and even the jobs we have. When foreign goods arrive, they're charged a fee to enter, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. This fee is supposed to level the playing field for American companies, making imported products less attractive compared to those made at home. In February 2025, the Trump administration launched the Liberation Day tariffs, a sweeping, aggressive set of taxes on imports. The goal was bold: protect American industries, bring back lost jobs, and send a message to trading partners that the US was putting itself first. Tariffs started at 10% on almost everything coming into the country, instantly raising the cost of thousands of everyday products. Some Chinese goods were hit with a staggering 60% tariff, while products from Mexico faced a 25% charge. These weren't just numbers, they were shock waves through global supply chains, and for certain pharmaceuticals and trucks, the tariff soared to an eye-popping 100%. Suddenly, life-saving medicines and essential vehicles became much more expensive to import. The idea behind all this? Make foreign goods so pricey that Americans would naturally turn to domestic products, boosting local factories and workers. It was a vision of a self-sustaining America, where "Made in USA" was the first and only choice. Plus, the government promised to use the billions in new tariff revenue to pay down the national debt, pitching tariffs as a win-win for the economy and the country's finances. But the reality was far more complicated. The cost of tariffs didn't just disappear, it got passed on to importers, who then raised prices for American consumers and businesses. Suddenly, everything from electronics to groceries cost more. So, while the plan was to make other countries pay, it quickly became clear that Americans were footing the bill at the checkout line, feeling the pinch in their wallets every week. The administration promised a self-reliant economic fortress, but the shockwaves hit every trading partner from China to the EU. Global supply chains were rattled, and international leaders scrambled to respond. The result? Soaring import taxes, higher prices on everyday goods, and a crash course for Americans in how tariffs really work, often in ways no one expected. What could possibly go wrong? As it turned out, plenty. The grand experiment had begun, and the consequences were just starting to unfold. The world didn't take the Liberation Day tariffs lying down. China, the EU, Mexico, and Canada hit back with their own tariffs, targeting American exports, especially agriculture. US farmers suddenly lost access to key markets, with crops piling up and prices crashing. Iconic American products like motorcycles, bourbon, and blue jeans faced new barriers abroad. Global supply chains unraveled as every component, steel, electronics, leather, became tangled in new taxes. The administration's unpredictable tariff rollbacks only added to the chaos, making it impossible for businesses to plan. The trade war became a rolling crisis, not a single event, leaving the global economy scarred and uncertain. For American producers, it was a bruising, high-stakes brawl with no clear end in sight. The trade war didn't just disrupt the flow of goods, it sent shockwaves through the very core of global finance: US Treasury bonds. For decades, these bonds were seen as the ultimate safe haven, a bedrock of stability in uncertain times. But as tensions escalated, trust began to erode, and the world's faith in America's financial reliability was put to the test. Countries like China and Japan, once the largest and most reliable buyers of US debt, started to rethink their strategies. In a dramatic and coordinated move, they began selling off their massive holdings, sending a clear message: the era of unquestioned support for US debt was over. This great treasury sell-off forced the US government into a corner. To keep attracting new buyers for its debt, it had no choice but to offer higher and higher interest rates, making borrowing more expensive for everyone. As treasury rates climbed, the impact rippled outward. Suddenly, mortgages became pricier, car loans and student debt payments soared, and even the government's own interest bills ballooned. The cost of money itself was rising, and no one was immune. The ripple effect was immediate and widespread. Higher rates squeezed families struggling to pay their bills, small businesses trying to grow, and even government officials wrestling with ballooning budget deficits. The financial weapon had hit its mark. Ordinary Americans felt the pain in their wallets as everyday expenses climbed and financial security slipped further out of reach. The world's safest piggy bank was suddenly less attractive. Investors looked elsewhere, and the cost of running America funding everything from schools to infrastructure, soared to new heights. The tariffs' unintended consequence was clear, a self-inflicted wound to the U.S. economy, with businesses shuttering and confidence shaken. The fallout was just beginning, and the world watched anxiously to see how America would weather the storm it had helped create. As trust in U.S. debt eroded, central banks worldwide rushed to gold, driving prices to record highs. The move wasn't just about profit, it was a vote of no confidence in the dollar and America's financial leadership. The seeds were sown in 2022, when the U.S. froze Russia's reserves, showing the dollar could be weaponized. The 2025 tariffs and Treasury sell-off pushed countries like China, India, and Turkey to diversify away from the dollar. A new, multipolar financial system began to emerge, with less reliance on U.S. power. The era of unquestioned American financial supremacy was fading. The global pivot to gold signaled a deeper shift. The world was hedging its bets against America. The rules of global finance were being rewritten. For most Americans, the impact of tariffs hit home at the checkout line. Cars became $2,000, $5,000 more expensive overnight, thanks to tariffs on steel, electronics, and higher loan rates. Big-ticket purchases slowed, showrooms emptied, and unsold inventories piled up. Electronics, clothing, and furniture all saw price hikes. Tariffs added $1,500, $2,000 a year to the average household's expenses. Even groceries crept up as tariffs hit packaging and transport. The Federal Reserve blamed the entire inflation spike on tariffs. The promise of protecting American industry came with a steep, immediate cost for consumers. Inflation became the new normal. Behind the numbers and headlines, real people bore the brunt of the tariff fallout, their daily lives upended in ways that statistics alone could never capture. The Miller family's Ohio truck parts business, once a poster child for protectionism, was crippled by tariffs on specialized steel, forcing layoffs and hardship. Their story is echoed in towns across America where small businesses that once thrived now struggle to keep the lights on. For the Millers, years of hard work and community ties unraveled almost overnight, leaving employees and owners alike facing an uncertain future. Maria, a single mom in California, felt the squeeze in higher prices for shoes, groceries, and a used car she could no longer afford. Every trip to the store became a careful calculation as she weighed what she could put in her cart against what she had to leave behind. For families like hers, the rising cost of everyday essentials meant making tough choices, sometimes skipping meals or postponing important purchases. In Michigan, auto workers who hoped for a manufacturing boom instead faced layoffs as sales slumped and factories cut shifts. The promise of new jobs faded, replaced by pink slips and shuttered assembly lines. For many, the dream of steady work in the auto industry was replaced by the anxiety of unemployment and the challenge of finding new opportunities in a shrinking job market. Farmers watched crops rot with export markets closed, while small retailers lost customers to rising prices. The ripple effects stretched from rural fields to Main Street, as communities dependent on agriculture and local business saw their livelihoods threatened. For many, the sense of pride in feeding their neighbors or running a family shop was replaced by worry and frustration. The tariffs, sold as a path to prosperity, delivered job loss, anxiety, and a declining standard of living for many. Hopes for a brighter economic future gave way to the reality of mounting bills, lost jobs, and dreams deferred. The emotional toll was as real as the financial one, with families gathering around kitchen tables to figure out how to make ends meet. The interconnected global economy left no one untouched. From bustling ports to boardrooms, the effects of the trade war rippled across borders, impacting workers, consumers, and businesses in ways few could have predicted. For countless families, the trade war was a daily struggle, not a distant policy debate. It was felt in every paycheck, every grocery run, and every conversation about the future. The uncertainty and stress became a constant companion for many. The pain was real, and the promised benefits never arrived. For those on the economic front lines, the cost of the trade war was measured not just in dollars, but in lost opportunities, broken dreams, and the quiet resilience of those determined to carry on. As economic pain mounted, the tariff fight moved to Congress and the Supreme Court. Democrats decried the tariffs as a reckless tax. Republicans were split between loyalty and free market principles. Congress was paralyzed, unable to act as farmers and manufacturers demanded relief. A major lawsuit argued the president lacked authority to impose sweeping tariffs without Congress. The Supreme Court heard the case, with $130 billion in tariffs at stake and the balance of power on the line. A ruling against the administration could force massive refunds and upend trade policy. A ruling in favor would cement executive power in the new economic order. The nation waited, knowing the decision would shape America's future for years. By 2026, the Liberation Day tariffs had reshaped American life. The promised manufacturing boom never came. Instead, prices soared and uncertainty reigned. Everyday life became a struggle as families adjusted to higher costs and shrinking opportunities. Most industries suffered, with job losses and shrinking profits in trade-exposed sectors. The administration's rebate checks were met with skepticism and legal challenges. The Supreme Court's pending decision left businesses and families in limbo. America stood at a crossroads, facing the lasting consequences of a grand economic experiment. The aftershocks would be felt for years to come.